Tensions have reached a boiling point as Iran warns it will strike U.S. bases if Washington interferes with its internal protests. Speaking in Tehran, Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagh Ghalibaf accused the U.S. and Israel of secretly orchestrating the nationwide unrest. Ghalibaf issued a stern ultimatum, declaring that U.S. military bases in the region would become legitimate targets if Iran is attacked. This threat comes as Israel puts its military on high alert, fearing potential American intervention to support the demonstrators. Reports indicate President Trump has already received detailed briefings on military options, including strikes on non-military sites in Tehran. While no final order has been given, Trump is seriously weighing a response to Tehran's violent crackdown on protesters. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held an urgent call with Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss the situation in Syria, Gaza, and Iran. Rubio also took to social media to publicly declare support for the brave Iranians taking a stand against their government. The White House confirms the president is monitoring the situation closely, viewing the instability in Iran as extremely dangerous. Trump posted online that Iran is looking at freedom perhaps like never before, affirming that the USA stands ready to help. Days earlier, he warned of a very heavy blow if the regime causes protester deaths similar to previous crackdowns. He emphasized that if Iran opens fire, the U.S. will return fire, though this does not imply a ground invasion. These protests ignited in late December 2025, driven by merchants angry over economic recession and the collapsing currency. The unrest quickly spread from the capital of Tehran to other major cities, mounting pressure on the leadership. Iranian officials blame foreign agents for the violence, while the U.S. dismisses this as a distraction from internal failures. To control the narrative, the regime has cut internet access and restricted international calls, hiding the true scale of the uprising. Human rights groups estimate over 100 people have died and thousands have been arrested since the chaos began. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei insists the government will not back down, dismissing the riots as attempts to please Western leaders. Khamenei mocked Trump's warnings, suggesting U.S. leaders should focus on solving their own domestic problems instead. Meanwhile, Iran's Chief Justice has threatened decisive, zero-tolerance punishment for anyone found disturbing public order. Despite the intense government crackdown, waves of determined protesters continue to flood the streets of Iran day after day. Verified footage confirms that fresh demonstrations erupted in a northern district of Tehran on the evening of January 10th. At Punak Square, citizens lit fireworks and banged on pots while chanting anti-government slogans, defying the heavy security presence. Shocking images circulating on social media reportedly show a local mosque being set on fire amidst the chaotic unrest. Beyond the capital, thousands marched in Mashhad, the hometown of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, signaling widespread national discontent. A witness told The Guardian that security forces deployed snipers in the Tajrish district, firing directly into the crowds. Human rights organizations based in the U.S. estimate that at least 72 people have been killed since the unrest began. Reports indicate that over 2,300 individuals have been arrested in connection with the violent street clashes. Meanwhile, Iran's Tasnim news agency claims that security forces have detained at least 200 ringleaders of the riots. Iranian officials have acknowledged casualties among security personnel, but insist these are the result of foreign-backed sabotage operations. Amidst the violence, President Trump issued a stark warning that Washington would intervene if the government massacres its citizens. In a late-night social media post, Trump declared that Iran is looking at freedom perhaps like never before in history. He reaffirmed that the United States stands ready to assist the Iranian people facing an increasingly brutal state repression. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the last Shah, urged protesters to organize with clearer objectives to succeed. He specifically called for strategies to seize and control key city centers rather than just marching in the streets. In a chilling countermove, Iranian authorities issued severe warnings to anyone considering joining the ongoing public demonstrations. The Attorney General declared that anyone taking to the streets would be classified as an enemy of God by the state. Under Iran's strict legal code, this specific religious accusation carries the possibility of the death penalty for the accused. State television broadcast threats stating that even those who provide support to the protesters could face similar capital charges. Supreme Leader Khamenei condemned the demonstrators as saboteurs and accused the United States of orchestrating the domestic turmoil. The Iranian army has vowed to firmly protect national interests as anti-government protests continue to spread across the country. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi accused the U.S. and Israel of direct intervention to turn peaceful protests into violence. However, the U.S. State Department immediately rejected these claims, dismissing them as mere paranoia from the regime. In a major policy shift, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced significant changes regarding Venezuela. Bessent stated that additional U.S. sanctions on Venezuela could be lifted as early as the coming week. This strategic move is designed to facilitate oil sales and allow international institutions to re-engage with the nation. He confirmed plans to meet with leaders of the IMF and World Bank next week to discuss their return to Venezuela. Nearly $5 billion in special drawing rights currently frozen by the IMF could soon be released. This massive injection of capital is intended to support the reconstruction of Venezuela's struggling economy. Speaking at a manufacturing facility, Bessent confirmed they are lifting sanctions specifically on the volume of oil sold. The Treasury is reviewing changes to help repatriate revenue from oil that is currently stored on tankers. The goal is to channel that money back into Venezuela to fund the government and its security forces. Bessent emphasized that these funds are also essential for helping the Venezuelan people directly during this transition. When pressed on the timeline, he reiterated that these significant regulatory changes could happen within the next week. These actions are part of the Trump administration's broader effort to stabilize the South American nation. The policy also aims to encourage American oil producers to return to Venezuela and resume their operations. This diplomatic pivot comes just 1 week after U.S. forces arrested Nicolas Maduro in the capital of Caracas. Previous U.S. sanctions had strictly banned international banks and creditors from dealing with the Venezuelan government. These restrictions effectively cut the country off from global financial systems without specific licenses. Institutions viewed these sanctions as major obstacles to restructuring the country's massive sovereign debt. The country faces a staggering sovereign debt load valued at approximately $150 billion. Financial experts view this massive debt as a major hurdle that must be cleared to unlock the nation's future. Restructuring this complex financial burden is widely considered the key to allowing private capital to return to Venezuela. Secretary Bessent highlighted that the current strategy focuses specifically on the mechanics of revenue repatriation. He noted that significant quantities of oil are currently sitting in storage on tankers, waiting to be sold on the market. The urgent challenge is creating a legal pathway to move the proceeds from these sales back into the local economy. Bessent asked rhetorically how the U.S. can help transfer that money to effectively run the Venezuelan government. Ensuring these funds reach the security forces and the general population is a stated priority for the administration. These comments were made during his visit to a technical facility belonging to Winnebago Industries. The Treasury Department is actively analyzing which specific sanctions need modification to allow this flow of funds. This rapid deregulation marks a complete reversal from the restrictive maximum pressure campaigns of the past. The administration hopes that by stabilizing the economy, they can prevent further crisis in the region. U.S. policymakers believe that economic recovery is the fastest way to solidify the recent transition of power. For American oil producers, this opens a lucrative door to reclaim their historic foothold in the energy-rich nation. However, the path forward remains complex, requiring cooperation from global financial institutions like the IMF. The frozen assets and complex debt structures will take time and negotiation to fully untangle. Yet, The signal from Washington is clear. Venezuela is being reopened for business under new terms. The ultimate success of this plan depends on whether private investors feel safe enough to return their capital. With the removal of Maduro, the U.S. is betting heavily on a market-driven recovery for the South American nation. This concludes our update on the rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape in both the Middle East and South America.